What's up, guys? It's Ty with H24 Outdoors, and today I'm going to be talking to you guys about fishing cold fronts in the fall for bass. And it is not November. I wish it was November. It is October 11th, and we are looking here in Arkansas at our excuse me at our first major cold front of the year. We've been having these cold snaps where it gets cold for like a few days, but this one is going to bring some pretty cool temperatures. We're having a pretty good Arctic blast for most of the country, and it is going to get down into the 30s and low 40s at night after this. And it can be a good time to fish at times. It's definitely a good time to hunt, which is what I'll be doing once this cold front hits because I get a little break on Monday when it hits. So that is awesome. I'm going to do some hunting. But I was going to talk about probably about three or four, maybe I'll throw a little bonus in there, tips to catch more bass during these cold fronts. These fish are finicky and they they'll pick you apart probably the most that they will all year, besides when they're on a bed. And these fish will leave you stumped, but never fear, they can be caught. So without further ado, let's get into it. All right, guys. So, like I said, on Monday, this cold front's gonna hit. I really wouldn't worry about it. The water temperature changing on Monday, but on Tuesday night is gonna get to the 30s. Like I think at my farm it says it's gonna get down to like 35. So, what do you do about that? The first tip I've got is to fish those sunny banks. When this water starts dropping, it is going to get pretty cold because we're having some longer nights. And I've talked about the time that it's dark being important in a past video, but whenever you got longer nights and it's getting into the low 40s at night, that is going to be pulling that water temperature down. Depending on what lake you're on, some lakes, the deeper lakes are obviously going to take more to drop that temperature, and you got to be more careful about the lake turning over because when it turns over, that fishing can get brutal. But those sunny banks are super important because just a degree in temperature can make all of the difference right now. And when you got those sunny banks, especially when you got a tournament and it is like when you're sitting there at 8 a.m. and you are freezing, because I know that there are some trails around our place still kicking, and you got 8 a.m., you're freezing. Look for those sunny banks because that is the water that's going to heat up first, and that's where those fish are going to get fired up to. And look for those sunny banks that lead back into creeks. Um, I'm trying to think of the direction where the wind would hit first in the morning. Uh, rises, you know how that goes, but you'll see it. Just look where the sun is beaming, especially if you got some rocks and hardcover, which I'll talk about later. Um, it'll heat that stuff up first. So sunny banks early in the morning is going to be your best friend. All right, guys. So the next tip I have for you guys is going to be to fish hardcover. And what do I mean by hardcover? I mean anything that is going to hold heat, such as concrete retains heat really good. It catches the sun, warms the water up a good degree or two whenever you're around it, like bridges, concrete, walls, just anything that's going to hold heat. Marinas, if they're legal to fish, which even if they're not illegal to fish, most of the times they actually are. But marinas are really good. That metal holds the heat from the sun really well. Rocks are phenomenal, and rocks on the bank are probably my favorite type of structure to fish whenever these cold temperatures start happening because they will hold on those things and they will not move, it seems like, all day. So definitely that. Definitely go and finesse on the rocks, on the concrete bridges. But yeah, just anything that holds heat, really. Um, I I don't think wood holds heat that well. It does hold some heat, but rocks, metal, concrete are going to be probably the three main things that hold heat the best. All right, guys. So the next tip I have for you guys is to give the bass a realistic presentation. And what I mean by this is pro. I don't want to offend anybody with what I'm saying, but there's just some baits that just don't look realistic. to the human eye, I will say. And this is the time of the year where I guess you're gonna need to break out these realistic shad patterns because a lot of times in the fall they're feeding on shad and crawfish anyways. But this provoke right here does a great job. This is a realistic presentation, in my opinion. And this whole video is my opinion, so if you don't agree with it, this is just what I've found over the years. But just a realistic presentation. These bass are super skittish whenever these fronts come through. This pressure is gonna rise and it's gonna freak them all out. And you know, you know how it goes. That's everybody's excuse is the pressure most of the time. But give them a realistic presentation because this is the time of the year that the fish are just gonna scatter whenever you cast at them. And so if you can just have that much more help, it will pay off. And I'm mainly talking about your jerk baits and your crankbaits. Just have a good shad pattern. 6th Sense has a ton of good colors for this exact thing that I'm talking about. And yeah, just have a realistic presentation. And a little bonus, I was just going to do 3, but I'm going to throw in this little bonus for you guys. Fish the back of creeks. This is the time of the year when these fish are going to push back in these creeks because whenever the day gets hot, the water is going to get hot with it. The more shallower you go, especially on like a reservoir, like a deep reservoir. But yeah, hit the back of creeks. This is the time of the year where you can throw a top water spook down the bank. You can throw some crankbaits, like I said, some jerk baits, but just go back in the creek. You want to try to go where the water is the warmest, and typically these shad just scatter back in there. And so yeah, just fish the back of creeks, just a little bonus. And do not take this as a 100% guarantee because I've caught a lot of fish deep this time of the year. But a general place to start if you're having trouble is just kind of not even start in the back of the creek, but just work your way into some creeks and just see how it goes, really. But I've found that a lot of times these bass will kind of stack up in the back of creeks if you give them that realistic presentation that I was talking about. That's also going to help your odds. But yeah, that was just a little bonus for you guys. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked what you saw and enjoyed it, please comment down below and give us a like, give us a subscription, and just know that everything I talked about in this video may be totally opposite for you and how you fish, but the way that I fish, this is what works for me. And if you think I got something totally wrong, tell me in the comments because I love to hear what your guys' opinion on that. But with that being said, have a wonderful day. Peace, guys.